Welcome to the City Council meeting. City Clerk Reed, could you take the roll, please?
Alderman Rainey.
Here.
Alderman Fleming.
Here.
Alderman Fisk. Alderman Braithwaite. Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Wilson. Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Here.
Alderman Suffredin. Here. Alderman Ravel.
All right. Well, welcome everyone to the September 11th, 2017 Evanston City Council meeting. It's hard to believe 16 years ago today was one of the most historic events and most terrible events to happen here in the United States. And I'd just like to, we had, for those of you that weren't even born, and I think we have a few people in this room, in 2001, we had 2,996 people die on that day. We had 343 firefighters killed instantly that day. We had another 71 law enforcement officers killed. It was a pretty terrible, terrible day. The world has never been quite the same since September 11th. And we had a really nice memorial this morning at Fireman's Park. And I just wanted, on behalf of everyone here in Evanston, to thank all of our public safety personnel, our firefighters, and our police officers for everything they do to keep us safe every single day. I also know that our thoughts are with a lot of people across this country who are also dealing with terrible disasters in Florida and in Texas, and I'm really proud of the community for stepping up in a lot of different ways to help. The recovery is not going to end in a week, and neither is the support of the people of Evanston. So I appreciate that. It also happens to be National Preparedness Month. And, I think that was driven home over the last 2 weeks, how important it is to be prepared. And so I would like to ask Chief Hull to come on up. We have a proclamation from the city for National Preparedness Month. And I'll just read a couple quick pieces of it. Whereas National Preparedness Month creates an important opportunity for every resident of the city of Evanston to prepare their homes, businesses, communities for any type of emergency, from natural disasters to potential terrorist attacks. And whereas investing in preparedness of ourselves, our families, and our businesses and our communities can reduce fatalities and economic devastation. We're part of a federal emergency management program called the READY campaign, Citizens Corps. This community does a lot to be prepared for the unexpected. I know there are many people going through incident command training here and a National Incident Management System, NIMS training. And they tell me they're not just doing that because I'm the mayor now, and that's what my business does. So I'll take them at their word. But there's nothing more important than being prepared for the unexpected. So I appreciate everything that the City of Evanston is doing, Chief, and want to present this proclamation to you and to the fire department and everyone else that's working hard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Did you want to say a couple things as well, Chief?
Sure. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Haggerty, City Manager Babkowitz, City Clerk Reed, members of the City Council, City of Evanston directors, city staff, citizens, visitors, and also the media. I'm Division Chief Dwight Hull, City of Evanston Preparedness Manager. We are observing National Preparedness Month. The Evanston Office of Emergency Management and the Evanston Health and Human Services Department want to inform you, disaster don't plan ahead, but you can. This is the theme for this year's National Preparedness Month. Following the terrorist attack of September 11, 2001, September has been recognized as National Preparedness Month to serve as a reminder that we all must take action to prepare ourselves and those in our care now and throughout the year for the types of emergencies that could affect us wherever we live, work, and also where we visit. There are 4 themes for National Preparedness Month, one for each week of September. Week 1, make a plan for yourself, family, and friends. Week 2, plan to help your neighbor and community. Week 3, practice and build out your plans. Week 4, get involved. be a part of something large. When preparing for emergencies, follow these 4 steps. Stay informed. Make a plan. Build an emergency kit, and get involved. To stay informed, our residents can go to the City of Evanston's website, where they'll find the Resident tab. Go to the emergency notification link, and there they can register at our Evanston Alert Emergency Notification Systems platform. And this way, the city can provide them with emergency notification to make a plan and also to build an emergency kit. Our residents, again, can go to the city's website, over to Emergency Preparedness and Response tab. Go to the link, there's an AIMA National Preparedness link, and there is a wealth of information on preparedness, what's going on in our state, and how to make a plan and build an emergency kit also. Get involved. Again, our residents can go to our website, become a volunteer. City of Evanston's Community Emergency Response Team, we're always looking for volunteers. We're always taking application. Get involved. We are currently training 8 new members to become volunteers in our city for that team. Remember, the most important step you can take in helping our local responders during a disaster is being able to take care of yourself and those in your care. The more people who are prepared, the quicker the community, or our community, I should say, can recover. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. It's a great line in the emergency management world. Fail to plan, plan to fail. All right, so we are gonna real quickly span the spectrum of seniors to youth in this community, and I know Lawrence Hemingway. I think you want to come up and introduce a senior in the community who's done something pretty cool.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, City Clerk Reed. It is my pleasure to introduce one of Evanston's finest citizens, Mr. Louis Koppel. Mr. Koppel and his wife moved to Evanston in the summer of 2014. His spelling bee career began when he was 11 years old. As a seventh grade student back in May School, which is now called May Elementary Community Academy. In 1955, while living in Austin, he competed in the Chicago Public Schools Championship Spelling Bee, sponsored by the Daily News and televised from the NBC Studebaker Theater by WMBQ. In 1956, at age 13, living in Morton Grove and an 8th grade student at East Main School in Des Plaines, he competed in the Cook County Public Parochial Championship Spelling Bee. After a lapse of 60 years, he once again became a speller in competitive competitions. In 2015 in Evanston, he began to follow his long-lost passion of spelling. This year was his first time that he's ever made it to the state. Well, I'm sorry, 2016. He won some rounds, and this year he made it all the way to the state finals. I would like to bring to you Mr. Koppel, who won second place in our local spelling bee held at Gibbs Morrison on April 22nd. As a first and second place winner, he was qualified to move on to the regionals, where he placed first in the regional spelling bee hosted at the Levy Center on June 16th. And I'm proud to announce on Monday, August 14th, Louis Koppel was a first place state spelling bee champion at the State Fairgrounds in Springfield, Illinois. Mr. Koppel.
Well, congratulations, Mr. Koppel.
Thank you very much.
You know, it's pretty exciting to have a state spelling bee champion among our midst, and we have a little something for you. But before we do that, we thought we'd test your spelling of Evanston. Okay, it's related to this book, so we won't have it as a competition between me and you to spell words, because I wouldn't want that. But just this one word. How about we'll go with the 8th word? How about Brummel Street?
Brummel.
Brummel.
Brummel?
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 Oh, you're going to ask for like, I've been watching Akeelah and the Bee, which is a great movie. If you haven't seen Akeelah and the Bee, I highly recommend it. But I don't know the origin of all of the Brummel, but perhaps Alderman Rainey does.
Sentence,
No.
right.
Yes.
That's right.
I want to get the pronunciation.
So yes, Alderman Rainey.
Is it Brummel or Brummel?
Some of the best people in the city of Evanston live on Brummel.
Brummel. Okay. My best shot at it is Brummel.
Way to go! See? The state best spelling bee champion right here among our midst. Congratulations,
Thank
Lewis,
you.
and thank you. We got a little something.
What was the winning word?
Right.
It was pulchritude,
Good golly. What
which is a
does that mean?
word that those on my end of the age spectrum probably recognize, but it's rather unused in these days.
It happens to also be a word, if you watch Akeelah and the spelling, Akeelah and the Bee, pulchritude is in there as well. All right, congratulations.
Thank you.
Let me come on. Now we are going to, let's see, Mike. All right, now we're going to go from seniors to youth in this community. I want you all to think about how important that first job is that you had when you were just a youngster, and all the skills that you learn from that. We are so blessed in this community to have an incredibly strong Mayor's Summer Youth Program. It was started years ago under Mayor Lorraine Morton, and then Mayor Elizabeth Tisdale really put a lot of resources and a tremendous amount of effort with lots and lots of different people in this community to make this an incredible program. We are going to recognize some youth today who were part of that program, who did a stellar job in that program, and I'd like Portia to come on up here, and she's just going to tell you just a couple things about this, and then we're going to give out some things quickly.
All righty. Good evening, Mayor Haggerty, Clerk Reed, City Manager Bobkowicz, and members of City Council. I am Portia Davis, and I am the Program Coordinator of the Youth and Young Adult Division, and I manage the Mayor's Summer Youth and Employment Program. In March 2017, over 700 youth attended the annual job fair held at Evanston Township High School. We are proud to say that we have employed over 560 Evanston youth throughout the summer and have provided at least 600 positions throughout the year to Evanston young people. We are here today to recognize students who have gone above and beyond their requested duties by working diligently throughout the summer, giving their all. They represent today the City of Evanston's Health and Human Services Department, Public Works Agency, Parks and Recreation Department, as well as Family Focus and the Salvation Army, to name a few. Some of our awardees: Anya Eason Johnson, Karen Reynosa, Bridget Obu, who could not be here today because they both are away at college, but we also have Joshua Montgomery, who began working months prior to the summer. They committed to being a peer leader and mentor amongst their peer groups by receiving training from the Chicago School of Professional Psychology. These students gave up their Saturdays and commuted to downtown Chicago eager to receive training on mental health and awareness, topics that range from social media and how to sustain healthy peer relationships to stress management and conflict resolution. These facilitators performed peer-led workshops, reaching over 50 MSYEP students, allowing students to discuss, explore, and to educate themselves on mental health and awareness. Please join us as we celebrate 12 of the best summer youth who have worked this summer throughout the program, and we will recognize them for the following awards that will be Most Improved, Perfect Attendance, and Outstanding Service. Can you all stand, please? So we're going to start with Most Improved. Sarah Parisian, Dion Wilson, and then we're going to move to Outstanding Service Award. Anaje Avery Hart. You can give her. Yeah, they're going to line up. So they're going to take one, and then they're going to line up, and we're going to take some pictures afterwards. Yeah. All right. Trinity Collins. Oh, Callie, you're first. I'm sorry. Callie Benson Williams. Trinity Collins. All right. Erin McKenzie. Esther Orlov Mayer. There you go. Alicia Thompson. Joshua Montgomery. Macy Roseman. And Kiara Warburton. All right, these are our superstars from the summer of 2017.
Okay, all right. Now, we're going to move on to public comment. Excuse me, I'm jumping too far ahead. Mr. City Manager, do you have any announcements?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, good evening. We are going to be beginning this week the process toward moving toward a budget for next fiscal year. This Wednesday evening from 7 to 9 p.m. we're going to do the second year of a budget cable cast where we are going to encourage residents to submit questions to us either by coming to the meeting here at the Morton Civic Center or attending or sending us questions through Twitter or Facebook, calling 311, sending us an email. All those will be opportunities for people to provide input, and that is this Wednesday evening from 7 to 9 p.m. We will be releasing the proposed budget on Friday, October the 6th, 2017, and then having the following opportunities for citizen comment and discussion of the budget beginning on Monday, October 16th at 7 p.m., Monday, October 23rd at 7 p.m. We will then have the public hearing on the budget on Saturday, October 28th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Another discussion on Monday, November the 6th at 7 p.m. And then the budget is planned to be adopted on Monday, November 27th at 7 p.m. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different opportunities the members of the public will have to comment on the budget. But the event on Wednesday is to provide some feedback to us, have questions answered as we prepare the budget for the council's consideration. So I just want to make those announcements. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Mr. City Clerk?
Yes, I do have a few announcements. On September 27th, 2017, the clerk's office, along with with the League of Women Voters, NAACP, and a number of other groups, will be participating in National Voter Registration Day here in Evanston. Last year, on National Voter Registration Day, the national organization was able to register 771,000 voters, and we hope here in Evanston to be a part of that. So the clerk's office is working with VPAC to make that happen. And then lastly, we have a very quick next week on September 18th, the clerk's office will be giving a presentation on participatory budgeting. We do want to thank, City Manager Bob Quicks and the city staff who have done a great job with our budgeting process, for our general budget and making sure that folks are included. But we are hoping to introduce the idea of participatory budgeting here and to begin framing the discussion for the council members and for the community. Before next week, we want to show a very quick, I believe it's about 2.5-minute video of a documentary titled Count Me In.
All right. Well, thank you, City Clerk Reed. All right. So now, excuse me, you're going to show it right now. I'm sorry.
It is my privilege to come before you today to present our proposed city budget for 2014.
This budget is a quad.
Mayor Emanuel's solution to the city's pension problem is angering just about everyone.
We are the taxpayers. The money belongs to us.
These are our tax dollars. We should talk about how they're spent.
Ballots only, please. Thank you so much. Your survey goes to him. Thank you.
What participatory budgeting does is communities taking the power into their hands and making the decisions themselves as a collective whole.
No, we want to be able to make our own decisions, good or bad, because it's our money.
I was walking down the street one day and saw a flyer that said, "Help the Alderman spend $1 million." It sounded interesting. So this year, we have 4 aldermen participating.
Wow, somebody's actually asking us our opinions of what we'd like to see happen in our community, as opposed to making assumptions about what we needed.
We're engaging our neighbors by giving them an actual role to play in what kind of projects.
Infrastructure, the bricks and mortar of government.
How many streets? How many sidewalks? If we do any murals, where are the murals going to go?
The reason I got a picture of the street sign, I can identify where the potholes are, because after a while they all start to look alike.
They started to collect ideas for projects. I'm sitting there, I've got this idea in my head for the last 5 years, so I proposed to my gardening idea into the mix.
Who wants to really work on these projects between now and the next meeting? Bikes, sidewalks, public transit?
It's one thing to ask somebody, hey, what do you think is a problem? And then ask them, hey, what's the solution? And come on, let's do it. Most people have never even been asked that.
Thank you. Participatory budgeting is not going to solve all their community issues, but the process itself and the potential for things that we can do as community members is pretty limitless, in my opinion.
You know, the door of democracy is opened.
Thank you. So very quickly, in a nutshell, what participatory budgeting is its government turns over a pot of money to its residents. The residents work to, come up with ideas and proposals on how to spend that money. They work with city staff to make sure that those proposals are feasible, and then those proposals move on to a ballot that goes to the wider community and is decided by the community as a whole. And the reason the clerk's office, and we will discuss this next week when we have experts such as Joe Moore, who's started Participatory Budgeting here, Maria Haddon from the Participatory Budgeting Project, as well as Taya Crum from the UIC Great Cities Institute, and a number of others who will be able to respond to questions from the council and community. But the reason the clerk's office undertook this is because we're working to turn the clerk's office as the Freedom of Information Act officer, local election official, and records keeper into the Office of Civic Engagement, and we think this is one of the greatest ways that we can engage citizens in the process and give them a real voice in policy decisions. So thank you.
Thank you, Clerk Reed. Okay, we're going to move over to public budgeting. I've got budgeting on my mind. We're actually going to move over to public comments, and we have 24 people that are signed up for public comment tonight. As you guys know, the rules that are set for public comment is we have a total of 45 minutes allotted for public comment. If we have more than 15 speakers, then we do some math. So we've done some math here, and I'm going to ask everyone to keep your comments to 2 minutes or less. And if you get up close to it, I'll just give you a little nudge just to wrap it up. I would ask everyone, the reason that we set this time is obviously we have a lot of material to get through at our meetings here, and it really is about being respectful to other people that want to get up and make some comments, as well as to everybody up here at the dais. I think folks, since this new council has taken over, have done a really nice job with public comment and being respectful of the time. So I anticipate the same will happen tonight. So with that, I will rattle off and the 3 names, and then I'll keep going so you know the order, so we can get through this this quickly and hear your comments on different issues. Janad Rizki is the first one. Then we've got Marlon Milnick, and then Rona Green Taylor will be next.
Glad you're interested in the budget. It's time money be put in the city budget for potential to buy Mr. Bobkowitz's contract out. The cost is small compared to some of the issues. I believe the primary reason Mr. Bobkowitz's employment needs to be considered is he has misinformed the public and the council on the real financial picture of the city budget. When did Mr. Bobkowitz know we had a $3 to $5 million budget problem? Prior to the election, when he was interviewing for a new job, or when he actually told us very recently? Why would on the night that we were told we had a budget problem, he would recommend a $1.4 million spending on a dinner theater on Howard Street using borrowed money against a TIF, giving private party a forgivable loan, and tell us we have a budget problem? Ridiculous. Of course, all you voted for that, which is really even more interesting. So Mr. Bobkowitz isn't completely fiscally incompetent. I think he's got some other people here that helped him along. Why would Mr. Bobkowitz present a capital plan and exclude Robert Crown from it, which I think we all know is a 3 to 5% property tax increase beyond the donations? And when the capital plan was presented, why did staff say they don't want to discuss all the capital needs? Because we don't have any money. That's not how we plan, I don't think. Of course, one of the aldermen said she had no sidewalks. Some of her residents had no sidewalks, but then she was pushing her pet projects that night in her ward. I remember Mr. Bobkowitz and a former sanitation director underestimated the yard waste collection fees by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Tonight we will surely pay for that when we look at the fees again here. They're going to go through the roof, and that's really the issue. This city is bankrupt financially and ethically, but the problem is we're not going to go insolvent. The taxpayers are just going to pay more and more taxes here because of the mismanagement that's going on. And Mayor Haggerty, I think you, in your election, people thought you were a businessman, but I've yet to see really any thoughts on the budget. So maybe when this comes, we will have some discussions about the budget. And I could go on.
Your 2 minutes.
All right, I'll just say this. I can go on, and we'll go on in the future about all the mistakes and mismanagement we have here, and it's a very long list.
Thank you. All right, the next speaker we have is Marlon Milner, and then Ronna Green Taylor, and then Carl Klein.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. On June 12, I came to speak to you about my complaint of racism I experienced at Roycemore School. I realize there are reasons why Council and Mayor may not want to provide constituency services to me on this matter. 1, Roycemore is private. 2, you have no direct jurisdiction over the matter, in your opinion. 3, the City of Evanston already has a largely symbolic and unenforceable anti-discrimination law on the books. And 4, we have no liability, the city that is, from the nearly $14 million bond deal you facilitated on their behalf in 2011 by vote. As local government, I already know 99% of what you do maintains power and privilege. You approve land use. And in approving or disapproving land use, you guarantee lawyers, accountants, investment bankers, engineers, architects, environmental planners, and a bevy of other white-collar, upper-middle-class folks get paid. You guarantee that. And you at least guarantee the opportunity for a developer to get paid. This is exactly where you have a direct one-to-one impact. All claims on affordability or expanding opportunity or creating equity, that is political spin. With Royce-Moore, you guaranteed a broke but privileged nonprofit could sell its building to a broke but privileged independent school in a wealthy neighborhood. You guaranteed that, and in guaranteeing that, you ensured that in the 2016-17 school year, Royce-Moore would be able to act based on their self-interest of that privilege, rather than the content of my character and the substance of my claims. All the while, the school in July 2016 reported entering into a forbearance agreement, depleted its operating reserves, and could no longer pay debt service on that bond deal the city of Evanston facilitated. That's public record. Sounds like a classic government bailout for the privileged and nothing for the rest of us. As someone who lives in Alderman Rainey's ward and pays a high price to live in one of the poorest, most crime-impacted, impoverished areas of Evanston, if government can't get dead rats and dog poop off my sidewalk, if government can't stop the drug activity and the playground loitering, if your power of land use policy segregates me to neighborhood schools with the highest concentration of poverty and the lowest performance in the district, then yes, I make the case that your actions guarantee that Royce-Moore continues to preserve its self-interest at the expense of parent citizens like me and our children.
Thank you,
and it's time for you to change that. Thank you.
All right, next speaker, Ronna Green Taylor, Carl Klein, and then Mike Ragusto. Again, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing people's names up here. Hi, Ron.
Hi, it's Rona Longo. But that's fine. I'm speaking tonight to agenda item A7. Oh, goodness. Good evening. I'm Rona Green Taylor, and I'm the president of the Women's Club of Evanston. I'm here with my board tonight and other members, and I'm so pleased to have the opportunity to tell you about who we are and what we do. We're a community service and philanthropic organization. Quite simply, we give and we serve. We donate thousands of volunteer hours every year, and we give out an average of $144,000 every year in grants to area nonprofits. That's nearly $1.5 million over the past decade. Our giving focus is always reflective of the values of this community and changes every year in order to enable us to address a wide variety of issues such as homelessness and poverty, ending discrimination and fostering diversity and harmony, improving the well-being of children, young people, and seniors, community health and wellness, and reducing hate and violence. We have been consistent and steadfast in this work, and we do it without local, state, or federal funding, without an endowment, and without outside fundraising. How do we pay our bills? We do it by hosting private events at our beautiful landmark clubhouse. So when we heard last July that the city was looking at selling the adjacent library parking lot, we were worried about the impact of parking. We were worried about the impact of the construction next door. Fairly early on, the city put us in touch with the developers, and we met with them numerous times over the past 15 months or so. We feel that Bruce Larson and Greg Steck have understood our concerns and have continued to cooperate with us. Together, we are figuring out an indemnification process to protect us from any harm resulting from the construction of the proposed development. We believe that we can work with this developer, and we would like to thank the City Council and staff for including us in this process.
Great. Thank you, Rona. Thank you, everyone, for standing up here. All right, Mike Ragusto again, and then Jay Friedman. And then Jim Walensky.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council, and City Clerk. My name is Mike Ragucio, and I reside at 2722 Isabella in Evanston. My family and I moved to Evanston 2 years ago from Chicago. We came here for the sense of community, the schools, and the diverse life that Evanston has to offer. We have 2 young children. One is a kindergartner in the District 65 school system, and one's scheduled to matriculate in 2 years. I came here tonight because I believe in positive civic involvement, and I wanted our voice heard. As a family, we frequent downtown Evanston to visit the library, enjoy restaurants, and attend various community events. More often than not, we will park at the library lot at 1714 Chicago. So I've been following the project associated with this address for about a year. At first, my interest was admittedly selfish because of the parking. However, that changed after the mayoral election and the District 65 referendum. I became concerned about the existing financial issues the city faces in the coming years. We were fortunate enough to pass the $14.5 million school tax referendum. However, it is a temporary fix and will likely have to be revisited in the future. There's obviously budgetary shortfalls due to a variety of issues, 30% of which come from a shortfall in building permit fees collected, sales tax revenues, and utility tax revenues. This is all happening while property taxes have increased by 10% over the last couple of years. So the property at hand at the library lot, my concern is how we can lever it for the city and its constituents. I think we have a project before us that will bring, and my math I think is a conservative estimate, is $2 million in tax revenue to the city using some comps in the area. And I think the city fees are close to $500 to $1 million, somewhere in between there.
I have about 10 more seconds.
Okay. This is an opportunity, I think, that could be a net positive for everyone involved. City, citizens, developers will all benefit from this project. It will encourage further development in the city and create long-term sustainable revenue for our city and for the city's annual operating budget. I'm in favor of this project and hope that other Evanstonians consider this similarly.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay. Next speaker is Jay Friedman. Then we got Jim Walensky, and then Anita. Carl, I did. So let's do this. Let's come on up here, Jay. We're going to do Jay, okay, and then we'll slide you in, and then we'll do you, Jim, okay?
It's Ray.
Ray.
It's close enough.
Yeah, I should know that, Ray, since you and I just talked not too long ago, but I'm looking at all this handwriting, and as you guys can probably tell, I'm always taking my glasses off. I can't see anything up close anymore as I get older, so.
Good evening, City Council members. Thank you, Mayor Haggerty, for meeting with me. Thank you for Devon for going through the neighborhood and getting neighbors' opinions. Since I was here last in front of City Council on 8/14 to speak about affordable housing, there are several questions that came up from several residents here. I can't read with my glasses on.
I'm glad I'm not alone.
Along with some of our research, we found an ordinance effective January 1st, 2016, titled An Ordinance Amending Portions of City Code Title 5, Chapter 7 to expand the application of inclusionary housing ordinance. The ordinance speaks about the need and lack of affordable housing here in Evanston. What we did learn is that the 16-unit building proposed at Dempster and Pittner will most likely not be helping any residents in Evanston. The names of possible tenants goes into a database, and we are not sure how much of Illinois this list covers. We were told from HOW organization several months ago that these units would be offered to Evanston residents first. This is not true. We are 100% in favor of affordable housing with a good plan and implemented in all neighborhoods. It is an excellent idea as spelled out in your 19-page document effective January 1st, 2016. As I mentioned before, the proposed 16-unit building at Dempster and Pittner does not meet the R5 zoning ordinance for that corner. It would take the place of a single-family ranch home that's been there for about 60 years, not to mention traffic issues, parking issues, safety issues, and now we find that it most likely won't even help Evanston residents at all. Oh yes, and it does not meet the guidelines spelled out in this 19-page ordinance 60-0-15, which spell out the minimum size per unit requirement. Why is it that this project has passed through the DAPR committee approved and now passed through the HHHRC committee approved? if you would please just consider the dollars that you're taking, about $5.4 million for 16 units, that's $337,000 per unit for 8 one-bedroom and 8 two-bedroom, very small units. I have comps for 7 sold homes in my area, averaging $194,000 per unit. One beautiful red brick 2-flat, 6 rooms each, which sold this year for $299,000, and yet you've agreed to buy 2 3-bedroom units for $300,000 each. Please stop and consider that you can buy 27 single-family homes for the same money that you're considering paying for 16
Hey,
units.
Ray, I need you to wrap it up in like 10 seconds.
Okay, thank you. Is this a wise use of our tax dollars? We respectfully request City Council to review the IDA application from Howe to compare it to the 60-0-15 ordinance and also the R5 zoning ordinance to confirm this proposed 16-unit building does not meet the standards set forth as far as size, height, minimum lot size, and minimum unit size.
Thanks, Ray.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Mr. Friedman submitted his statements, and I'll make sure they're forwarded to all of the members of the council.
Great. So, Carl, we're gonna slide you in, Carl. I apologize for missing you, and I am doing a bad job, you guys, keeping everybody to the 2 minutes. All right. So I'm gonna need a little help because I don't want to have to drop the hammer or anything. I got a bunch of them up here, I guess gavels or whatever they give me. But let's really try to stick to the 2 minutes. And if you can get your point across in less than 2 minutes, the crowd will probably cheer.
All right. Good evening. There's an overarching problem here in Evanston. While the city has a huge budget shortfall and is desperate for dollars, developers are dictating what our city should look like and proposing planned unit developments. The city of Evanston is disregarding its plans, the 2009 Downtown Evanston Plan, the 2000 Comprehensive Plan, and other plans, and zoning ordinances, which clearly state how Evanston is able to grow appropriately with buildings and streetscapes which are in line with future needs, but also fit the character of the existing community and neighborhood. These city plans followed a transparent and inclusive process with community input and were approved by the City Council as a guideline for future growth. All 9 of you, city manager and mayor, agreed that you need to review the Downtown Evanston Plan at a City Council planning and goal setting meeting on June 19th, 2017. We need to hold you to this. So please follow the Downtown Evanston Plan and do not sell the library parking lot. The Downtown Evanston Plan states that Chicago Avenue lacks open space on the northern edge of downtown, and it recognizes an opportunity for a new public park at the site. It goes on to recommend user-friendly parking under the new green space. This area is densely populated and surrounded by high-rise residential buildings. What could be more in keeping than a beautiful urban park on land we already own? This is a public asset, so let's have a serious discussion about that and not sell the library parking lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl, and thank you for doing that in a minute 30. All right, Jim.
Thank you, Mayor Haggerty, City Manager Bobkowitz, City Council, Clerk Reed. I just want to talk about the sale of the property of the library parking lot for a moment. First, I am 100% in favor of expanding the tax base of this community. And if this will do that, I'm 100% in favor of it. And if there is a need for a 10 or 12-story office building at Evanston, I'm even more thrilled. I really hope that's true. Quite frankly, I'm a little concerned about the fact that a number of our office buildings have become the homes of schools and whatnot, like Roycemore, the Beacon Academy, some of the others, and that we have not expanded our business base with firms coming to Evanston, business firms. So, but again, I'll leave it up to the City Council and the developer to work this out. But one thing I am concerned about is the construction period of probably 12 to 18 months on Church Street. And there's a number of very great Evanston residents, Evanston restaurants rather, that occupy Church Street right across the street from the Women's Club and the library parking lot. And I fear that those restaurants will succumb to lack of parking when the construction starts. I know a little bit about overseeing construction. I did it from this town for over 20 years. So it's always the existing folks that get sort of the bad deal on parking for their customers and whatnot. So that I would propose that either in this land sale, or at the proper time for the plan development process or any type of zoning relief, that language be put into it to protect these restaurants so that the developer would be responsible for valet parking for the restaurants along Church Street, both for the lunch hour and the dinner hour. And I know that someone's always going to say, well, they can park at Chicago and Church, the parking garage. Well, a lot of people still like the surface parking in this town. And
I need you to wrap it up in about 10
so,
seconds, Jim.
Again, my whole point is just I'd like to see valet parking during the construction period of this building. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Anita. Ramages. Oh. Thank you. All right, let's hear it for Anita. She just gave us all 2 minutes back. Betty Esther, and then Peggy Tarr, and then John O'Malley. Let's see. Do we have any? Here comes Betty.
Good evening. In the minutes for tonight, there is the appointment of the people that was selected by the mayor to serve on the citizen complaint
That's a mouthful.
assessment committee. I don't know what that process was or how it went, but I am thrilled and happy to see that Karen Cartwright did make the list. The other people on the list, don't know too much about them. Hopefully the community would like to have really seen something about them and as to what they do in the community and everything. Karen Cartwright has been very vocal and visible in the community, and she was part of the framer group that went through a wild process that we had hoped would continue. But I'm glad to see that she get a chance to continue to that. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Betty. Peggy Tarr, John O'Malley, and I'm not sure if it's Trish or Trisha Conley. There's an A there.
Good evening. Much of what I want to say I actually said before the Human Services Committee on September 6th. The arrest of the young boys of color who were riding on a bike by the Evanston Police Department is abominable. People attended and or spoke at the September 6th Human Services Committee meeting because they wanted to speak to this matter and or they were led to believe that this matter would be on the Human Services agenda. The bike incident was not on the Human Services agenda, and Police Chief Eddington was not present in the council chambers during that meeting. An article in the August 30th edition of the Chicago Tribune says Illinois Attorney General Lisa Madigan on Tuesday sued the city of Chicago, contending Mayor Rahm Emanuel's reforms are not sufficient to prevent the Chicago Police Department from continuing a pattern of deadly and excessive force that disproportionately hurts African Americans and Latinos. Madigan's move effectively pushes Emanuel toward acknowledging he will have to accept a federal judge's oversight of the police department. Because of the alleged racism displayed by some Evanston police officers when they are out in the community. One is I have to wonder what's going on within the department as far as racism among the police officers. But the other is because of the alleged racism displayed, I think perhaps Attorney General Madigan needs to consider suing the city of Evanston too. Alderman Fleming stated at the September 6th Human Services meeting that the police do respond when called. But what I want to say is they don't always respond, and I had that happened to me most recently. If they do respond, they don't respond necessarily in a timely manner. And when they do come out, they're not always appropriate or courteous. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. Next is John O'Malley, and then Tricia Conley, and then Claire Kelly.
Good evening. My name is John O'Malley. I live at Eastwood and Chancellor in Evanston. I'm here to advocate the development of the parking lot office development. I think the tax base could use the additional money. I'm also in the commercial real estate business, and I know tenants these days that are high growth tenants like new office buildings. So I think it's not a lot of Class A office space in Evanston, and I think Evanston can avail itself to these tenants moving forward. And the economic development, I think, in the area will be benefited by 500 or so jobs in Evanston. So I advocate the development. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, John. Thank you. Tricia Conley, and then Claire Kelly, and then Mike Vasilko.
Hello, I'm Tricia Conley. I live at 908 Greenwood here in Evanston. I want you all to know how truly concerned and disappointed I am in this idea that it's okay to sell our public land. I know it's a parking lot. I know it's ugly. I know it needs to be repaired. I know, there's other ideas people have, and there's a quick way to make some quick money. But once it's gone, it's no longer in our hands. We have some historical things, frameworks we could look at on the selling of public property and land, and how you can maybe fix a leak here, but after that leak's fixed and it breaks again, okay, that money's gone. We need to really think about what we want to do and what our vision is for this town. We who live here, we live here for a reason. You guys hear this a lot. You live here too. What's brought us to Evanston? Is it going to be some generic office building next to some really incredible historical buildings? What is it? What is our experience when we walk downtown or we're walking out of the library? What do we want for ourselves? So I really, really hope you will consider that in terms of at least our public land. If something else is out there and you want to do something, let's talk. But let's keep the public land we have. We have so little of it left. Thank you.
Thank you. Claire Kelly, and then Mike, and then Kira Kelly.
Hi, I'm Claire Kelly. And first I remember this mic used to be over there so we could kind of face also the residents. It seems kind of awkward to have people speak and always have their back to the residents. Unfortunately, the history of this city council, it takes such damn strong political winds to get you guys to do the right thing. And I think it'd be really nice to also be facing the public, because these are the leaders. These are the people, the people who come out and fight and struggle against some really terrible ideas that the city council is pushing forward, like decimating the center of our town to put a high rise. I can't even believe you're thinking of doing this, of selling once again. We look the other way and you're going to sell off our public land. We don't need to do that. Don't you guys have an ounce of for a few $1 million? I'd be happy to sit down with you. I would. And I'm not going to say go over this budget and find places you can cut. It's just incredible to me. I just can't believe it that you guys are really talking about selling off yet more of our public land. In Evanston, we're adjacent to Chicago. We're on the lake. We have Northwestern. There's no need for this to degrade our city anymore. I mean, it's really exhausting. We're exhausted. We vote you in to represent. Can you please start representing? Put your finger on the pulse of the residents. We shouldn't have to spend this many hours. I'm a public school teacher. I'm exhausted, but I got to come out again and stay out here for 3 or 4 hours. And again, the history is that the political winds just have to blow so damn hard to get you guys to do the right thing. Reach out more. Please don't sell off the Evanston Public Library. Please keep it in the public hands. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Vasilko, Kira Kelly, and then Priscilla Giles.
Mike Vasilko, 2728 Reese Avenue. We are entering budget season. The city manager's weekly report states that there is nearly $6.2 million of active city funding of private projects. Some funded amounts are only a couple $1,000, while others are up to $2.9 million. The city report also states there are 4 open loans to private projects totaling nearly $1.1 million. Over $800,000 of that loan amount is for 2 projects in the 8th Ward. A $675,000 loan is to 1 restaurant. At least the 3 other loans are paid back with interest, much like a bank. The Peckish Pig restaurant pays back no interest, and there's no end date on that loan amount of $675,000. Staff regularly awards contracts to bidders who are not the lowest qualified bid, resulting in the city losing millions of dollars unnecessarily over time. These are just a few examples of why the city's budget is in such desperate shape, and we have to sell off public property. In addition to the recent significant property tax increases and other city services fees being increased, I now read about the hefty increases that we're going to have for trash pickup to cover $1 million a year annual deficit in the Public Works Department.
15 more seconds or so, Mike.
Rather than nonstop taxes and fees increases, adopt frugal fiscal policies. Stop handing out millions of dollars of taxpayer money to businesses. Stop offering loans, especially no-interest loans and forgivable loans. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Is Kira Kelly here? Kira Kelly? Okay, so how about Priscilla Giles?
My name is Priscilla Giles, and I'd like to speak on 2 items. The new bike lane on the east side of Arlington Avenue is taking away much-needed parking in downtown Evanston. The new plan for another concrete giant on the present library parking lot to replace on-ground parking with sunlight, fresh air, and greenery is another developer's monetary gain. Can't we keep Evanston and not concrete city? Greenery is always prettier than concrete. Once again, it seems Evanston is for sale. I'd also like to speak against privatizing residential refuse collection in the name of Groot, which has no allegiance to Evanston city residents who would like to remain in Evanston as city employees. We speak of diversity, but every move seems to diminish diversity as jobs disappear and housing costs increase. Thank you.
Thank you, Priscilla. Sergio Hernandez, and then it'll be Bruce Larson and Paul Janicki.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members, City Clerk, City Manager. My name is Sergio Hernandez. I am here as a resident of 1400 Kirk Street in the Great 8th Ward. I'm a doll shoot parent, volunteer with OPA and Latino Resources, board member District 65, and member of the Welcoming Evanston Coalition. I have committed my life as an educator and community activist advocating on behalf of our most marginalized communities. Moving to Evanston several years ago was intentional to ensure my children grow up in a city rich with diversity, outstanding schools, and a plethora of resources. Unfortunately, Evanston, as many communities across the country, still struggle with racial bias. This is evident in the persistent opportunity gap that has permeated throughout the history of our public school system. This is evident in how children of color are disproportionately disciplined and suspended in our schools and stopped and arrested by our law enforcement. It is evident how our city is lacking in effectively engaging and taking into account the lived experiences of Evanston's marginalized communities. I'm heartened by the fact that many of our institutions, District 202, District 65, and the city, are starting to be intentional about addressing systemic and institutional race and bias. One fact that is especially reassuring is that our Welcoming City Ordinance will be strengthened by the adoption of the state's recently passed Trust Act. But despite these efforts, we still have much work ahead to answer the following questions to ensure the city of Evanston is not just a welcoming city and sanctuary for immigrants and refugees, but also for our historically marginalized Evanston Black community. As a parent, I ask you, how can our city council, mayor, and chief of police assure me that my children and other Black and Latinx children will not be handcuffed and arrested for being children of color? And if any of my children are arrested, will those responsible for this misconduct be held accountable? As a public official from a marginalized community, I ask, how can I be sure that once I start running my re-election campaign, I won't be arrested for collecting signatures? As a relative, friend, and colleague of persons and families who are undocumented, will the city provide them legal and housing resources through 311 if their one economic provider is arrested? As an Evanstonian and Cook County resident from marginalized communities, will the city and Evanston Police Department provide information to me and fellow Latinx and Black residents to ensure we are not on a gang database, and if we are, the means to get us off of the gang database? Research has shown that many people who end up on gang databases end up there because of the color of their skin, what they wear, and is a form of racial profiling.
Sergio, I need to wrap up in 10 seconds.
As a taxpaying resident of Evanston, how will the city and the Evanston Police Department ensure that my tax dollars are not wasted fighting civil rights and due process lawsuits like Chicago is due to the misuse of gang databases, police misconduct, and wrongful imprisonment? I'm here as an ally, as a government ally, and I want to be able to work with you to answer these questions. So I'm looking forward to our work between our different institutions to answer these questions and make our city of Evanston a welcoming city, not just for immigrants and refugees, but for historical Black community here in Evanston. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we got Bruce Larson, then Paul Janicki, then Greg Steck. And again, if I can ask everyone to work hard to keep your comments 2 minutes or less, that would be greatly appreciated.
I will try.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, council members, I've been here several times. I'm one of the developers that would like to purchase the library property parking. I just want to touch on some of the comments that I've heard. We just want to start a process with this meeting here. We want to be able to pay you $4 million for the property, pay you almost $1 million in fees, and pay close to $2 million a year in taxes. We think we have one of the most beautiful buildings that anyone has seen in a long time. We've used a very prominent Evanston architect, Paul Janicki. We're asking for no city dollars at all, no guarantees, no TIF money, nothing from the city of Evanston. There will be at least 500 jobs in this building. That is 500 people that will be in the downtown every single day, 5 days, sometimes 6 days a week. I don't know what that impact would be. There's all kinds of numbers about that. This is a Class A office space, which, as I heard tonight, is something that's needed. We've been at this process for 15 months, and we're committed probably for another 9, 10, 12 months at least until we get if we get a final approval. And what we're asking for is to go through the process. We're not asking for 100% approval tonight. That's not what this meeting's about. This meeting's about to let us go through the process. We've met numerous times, dozens of times, with our neighbors, tried to address all of their concerns. Some we can, some we can't. We've gone so far as to deed restrict the building. It can never be sold to Northwestern or any other non-tax paying entity. We've tried
10 more seconds.
Okay.
You can wrap it up.
We've tried through this to show that we want to cooperate. We want to listen. We want to try to solve the problem. And that's what we're here for tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Paul Janicki, Greg Steck, and then Tom Zanuck.
Steve, can I give my time to Greg Steck?
Meaning you want to give your 2 minutes to Greg Steck. I don't know if we do that up here.
It's up to you.
Oh, I guess I can. All right, Mr. Steck, come on up. How about we negotiate? How about 3 minutes? All right. I won't be too hard if you go over 3, but thank you, Greg.
I don't need to speak for 3 minutes. My voice is already gone from the weekend. My son plays football. So I don't have to touch on, I'm just here for everybody. If any alderman has any questions to what Bruce and I have been through for the last 15 months working with the Francis Willard Foundation and while the Women's Club left. I could say,
They're back there.
Oh, there you are. I didn't see it. They designed the building right there. Paul Janicki sat in the Women's Club. I don't know, Paul, how long. We sat, we spent a long time designing the building. I hope we could show a picture of it. It wasn't just us, the developers, designing it. When we went through the system, the staff said, hey, you got to go see these neighbors. And that's what we've done for the last 15 months. The people that are going to be next to us, they designed the building. The women's club, I mean, Rona said, look, get that out of here. Fire your architect. We fired our architect. So I feel I'll be done in a second. Any questions you have for this process, please let us know. And we want to cooperate with the City of Evanston. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. All right, we've got Tom Zanuck, then Janet Steidel, and then Thomas Klein, and then Dale Bradley will be the last speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and the audience. I just wanted to make a few short comments with respect to the library lot. As the council knows better than many of us, the downtown plan and the comprehensive plan of the city of Evanston is a guideline, and it's a guideline that can be addressed under your ordinances on plan development. And if these developers can't meet the expectation of your zoning board of appeals or the plan commission, this isn't going to happen. But if they can, this first step gives them an opportunity to at least try to meet the city's expectations, to meet the neighbors' expectations. And with respect to the comment of quick money, this is the antithesis of quick money. What this is a perpetuity of money. And this isn't all about money, but frankly, one gentleman indicated that he anticipated the real estate taxes on an annual basis to help all of the citizens of Evanston would be approximately $2 million. I think he's probably right on. This isn't an effort to degrade Church Street, it's an effort to enhance it. And if these developers can prove to the city, the Plan Commission, the Zoning Board, and your other committees that enhancement will take place, I'm sure it will be approved by everybody who thinks of what is best for the citizens of Evanston. So thank you for your time, and I think I'm under 2 there.
You are. Good job, Tom. All right. How about Janet Steidel, and then Thomas Klein, and then Dale Bradley?
Good evening. It was not my intention to speak this evening, but I signed up for public comment just in case. Well, just in case has happened, and I believe that this issue has not been spoken about yet this evening, and I hope you'll be lenient with the time for me as you have with other people. I spent the better part of a week doing research to try to understand how we have gotten to this point on the sale of the library parking lot. I made the conscious decision to use only primary sources, those available on the city's website, those that anyone seeking information would use. What I found made me question the city's process for selling this land, our public land. I wrote up my research, including links to the city's information, and then I decided to bring my concerns to each of the city aldermen so they could decide how to proceed. I contacted all of you via telephone or email, and I am grateful for those who have communicated with me. I'm very grateful. At some point, so in a nutshell, here's what I want to say. Last fall, the original RFP generated 3 responses from 11 interested parties. Only 1 was categorized as responsive. It was submitted by Connor Commercial. Key elements were a full-price offer of $5 million for the land and 14-story building. The city proceeded to work with them. At some point, Connor Commercial bowed out, according to the city's website. According to tonight's packet, the developer who would purchase the property is MHDC SLFLLC, a name I can't even, I haven't run across it in my research, and I'm not very good at saying it. The offer is $4 million and for the land and an 11-story building. The bottom line is this entity did not respond to the RFP last fall. They somehow took over Connor Commercial's position, and to date, they have not provided all the information required in the RFP. What's disconcerting is that this information was missing from the council's meeting packet back in April, 5 months ago, yet the council voted to allow the city manager to negotiate the sale in May. And that the information is still missing from tonight's packet, and the council is now poised to vote to sell this land to them. I've not been able to find information on the city's website to tell us who the developer is or provide basics about the building to be developed, basics like a conceptual site plan or a floor plan or a full set of elevations. There is something wrong with the process. Getting the information to us now is not the point. Not having full information when this came before the council for votes 5 months ago is the process has been flawed. It needs to be fixed. If this land is supposed to be sold, it will be sold. If this building,
I got to have you wrap it up in like 10 seconds.
If this building is supposed to be built, it will be built. My preference is that the process is fair and transparent, that decisions are thoughtful and informed, that the information is complete and accessible, and that selling this property for private development is really the right thing to do. I don't think I'm alone in this. Let's push the reset button with these goals in mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Janet. You got Thomas Klein, and then Dale Bradley will be the last speaker.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. City Manager, members of the City Council. My son referred to a meeting in June of this year where the City Council met with the City Manager and the Mayor to review the various plans that the city follows. Several members who are new to the council honorably admitted that they would benefit from time reviewing the various city plans. That was a prudent statement. As the mayor said today, failing to prepare is preparing to fail. Along those lines, an appellate court of Illinois 2 years ago on a zoning matter, the city, when it doesn't follow its plans, gets in zoning trouble and gets litigated against. An appellate court quoted from the 2000 comprehensive plan. It referred to the plan 14 years before that and all the way back to the 1917 comprehensive plan. For the city not to embarrass itself before the various courts of the state of Illinois, it should honor its plans. It should know what's in them, and it should follow them. If a 2014 parks plan has the parking lot between the library, the women's club, and the Willard House for a park, and the city decides it doesn't want to have it be a park, it should refer to the comprehensive plan of 2000, the downtown plan of 2009, and the parks plan of 2014. It should review them. It should transparently state to citizens that council members have read the plans, know what are the items that are in the plans, and either will follow the plans or modify them and get citizen input.
Thank you, Tom.
Mayor's comment, failing to prepare is preparing to fail, is right on point. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. All right, and last speaker is Dale Bradley.
Hello, Mayor Hagerty and City Council. I'd like to take two hats off right away. I'll be the president. I am the president-elect of the Chamber of Commerce, so I take that hat off because they wouldn't want me to say what I'm going to say, probably. I'm also a trustee of the Evanston History Center, so I take that hat off. I speak simply as a business owner. I own a business and a building at 3000 Central Street here in Evanston. And you have a tough decision to make, and I understand both sides. As a preservationist, I've learned more about the history of Evanston in my involvement with the History Center than I ever did. And so part of me sides with them. Don't sell that property. That's Evanston's property. As a business owner and an owner of a building who pays an enormous amount of property tax, I think sell that piece of property. Go get the revenue. We need it. There's a hole in the budget, and these fellows seem like pretty good guys, so let them build the building. I was surprised that the women's club, were you in favor of it? Like it kind of a different, well, it's, right, they don't want to be harmed. So, right. But it seems to be like there was some cooperation, at least, with the neighbor. And of course, someone else remarked about the short-term impact on the restaurants across the street. Well, having 500 new jobs right across the street in the longer term might be a good thing for those restaurants that are right across the street. So I stand in the middle. Wasn't sure quite. I almost gave you the 2 minutes back because I don't like sticking my neck out. But you have a tough decision to make, and it's economic development. You know, I would imagine for the last 150 years this has been raging on as a debate in Evanston, and there are probably whole neighborhoods in Evanston that at one point some other neighborhood across the way didn't want built. There's probably people living in homes in Evanston where the neighbors over there didn't want the homes to be built. But it's economic progress. It's a tough decision. I'll stand in the middle, and I did take my 2 hats off.
Thank you, Dale.
All right.
Thank you.
And good luck with it.
Thanks. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for participating in public comment. Getting up here, sending emails to council members, it does make a difference. I can tell you that this is a deliberative body that's up here, and appreciate everybody coming out and taking time to express your point of view. With that, we are going to move on to the consent agenda. We don't have any special orders of business this evening. And so if I could ask you, Alderman Braithwaite, to lead us through the approval of the minutes and then into the payroll, and you know how we're doing it these days.
And Alderman Braithwaite, could you hold the minutes? Off the consent, yeah.
I don't read the minutes.
No, I know, but we were approving the minutes. I'd like to hold them to the next meeting. I wanted to go through some revisions with the city clerk.
Got it. All right.
So I'd like it off the consent.
Okay. I'm going to jump right in with Administrative Public Works.
Okay.
No, it's got to start at the beginning.
Oh, you want me to go?
Yeah.
All right.
Beginning.
Okay.
Yeah. Item A1. Mr. Mayor, members of Council, I'd like to move item A1, payroll July 24 through August 6, 2017, in the dollar amount of $3,142,3.32. I'd also like to move for action payroll August 7th through 20th in the dollar amount of $2,961,853.64. And bills list through...
I think we need to stop there, right? The bills list we need to do separate.
All right.
Okay, so do I have a second on those 2 items?
Second.
Okay, City Clerk, could you take the roll?
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
Alderman Fisk. Aye. Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen. Aye. Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Rue Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Suffredin. And Alderman Ravel.
From payroll, you're abstaining?
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is payroll.
Oh, take that one. Yes.
He's an aye. All right, so the A1 passes 9-0. Okay, Alderman Braithwaite.
Thank you. I'd also like to move item A2, bills list through September 12th, in the dollar amount of $5,226,771.99.
Is there a second? Okay.
Second.
City Clerk, could you take the roll?
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
Alderman Fisk. Aye. Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen. Aye. Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Rue Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Suffredin. Alderman Ravel.
All right, so A2 passes 8-0 with 1 abstaining. Alderman Suffredin. Okay. All right, Alderman Braithwaite, let's move through the rest of APW.
Item A31 is contract extension with Dunbar Armored, Inc. for armored car services. That's in the dollar amount of $84,611.67, and that's for action. I'd also like to move item A3.2. It's the contract with Kenny Construction Company for 2017 CIP sewer rehabilitation contract. That's in the dollar amount of $339,459, no cents. That's for action. I'd also like to move item A3.3, change order number 2 to water treatment plant reliability improvements project agreement with Thieneman Construction, Inc., and that's in the dollar amount of $7,110. And item 3.4, change order number 1 for the water treatment chemical liquid aluminum sulfate purchase from Affinity Chemical LLC, and that's going to be in the dollar amount of $65,000. Item A 3.5, residential refuse collection. Well, I think we held all of these in committee. So the following items were held in committee. Item 3, A 3.5, item A 3.6, item A 3.7, item A 3.8, item A 3.9, as well as item A 3.10.
So, okay, just so we're clear, so right, so those are not on this, those are all held in committee, not on this when we approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor. Okay. I'm going to keep on going. Item A4, Resolution 72-R-17, authorizing the city manager to execute the renewal agreement with Hoffman House Catering for senior meal food programs at the Levy Center in Fleetwood, Jourdain. That's going to be in the dollar amount of $38,765. I'd also like to move item A5, Resolution 70-R-17, authorizing the city manager to execute a development of the affordable housing agreement for the construction of residential homes at 2005 Gray Avenue.
Second.
I'd also like to...
He paused.
I'd also
Go
like to
on.
move item 8.6, and this is going to be for action, introduction and action this evening. That's Ordinance 80-0-17, authorizing the city manager to negotiate the sale of city-owned real property located at 2005 Gray Avenue, ETHS District 65. I'd also like to move item A7, Ordinance 52. Okay, Ordinance A7 is going to be removed. Item A8 is Ordinance 86-0-17, amending the City Code Title 10-11-1, Schedule 1, reducing the speed limit of Chicago Avenue between Dempster Street and Sheridan Road from 30 to 25, and that's also for introduction and action at the request of Alderman Fisk. Item A9 is for introduction, and it's the sale of surplus property, and staff recommends, well, I'll just leave that alone, just for introduction. Item A10 is 72-0-17, amending the City Code Section 11-2-11B, the Immobilization Program, by amending the amount of, and I'm actually going to remove that because I'm voting no for that. Remove item A10. And then I11 is Ordinance 82-0-17, authorizing the 2017 A, B, and C general obligation bond issues, and that's going to be for action. Item A12 is 77-0-17, decreasing the number of Class 1 liquor license for Barn Investment LLC, doing business as the Barn. That's for action. Item A13, Ordinance 78-0-17, increasing the number of Class D liquor licenses for the Barn Investment LLC.
Okay.
That concludes my report.
All right, thank you, Alderman Braithwaite. Now we're just going to move into Planning Development Committee with Alderman Rainey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first item is for introduction, suspension of the rules, and action, and that is Ordinance 87-017, granting a special use for a Type 2 restaurant, Amana taco shop at 512 Main Street. Number P2, Ordinance 89-017, extending the time for the applicant to obtain a building permit to construct the residential unit in the planned development at 318-320 Dempster Street. This is for introduction, suspension of the rules, and for action at the request of Alderman Nguyen. Ordinance 91-017 is also for introduction, suspension of the rules, and for action. This grants a special use and major variations to allow expansion of a retirement home at 120 Dodge Avenue. P4 is Ordinance 92-017. This is for introduction. This is a zoning text amendment regarding transit-oriented oriented development parking requirements. This reduces parking requirements for certain projects in proximity to public transportation. Ordinance 44017 is for action this evening. This amends various sections of Title VI of the City Code to modify notice requirements for zoning applications and hearings. Ordinance 45017 is for action tonight. This amends the City Code 6419, paren A, paren 4, and 6183, granting zoning administrator authority to establish the front lot line. This is for action.
Great. Thank you, Alderman Rainey.
Includes planning and development.
Thank you, Alderman Rainey. Alderman Fisk, would you like to address the Human Services Committee?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. H1 is 2018 Law Enforcement Torch Run Polar Plunge on Clark Street Beach. Say that 2 times, 3 times fast. The Polar Plunge will be starting at 8 a.m. on February 16th and finishing at approximately 3 p.m. on February 18th. It requires no city services. It's for action. And H2 is Resolution 69R17, authorizing the city manager to execute professional services agreement with Youth Job Center to fund the Building Career Pathways to Sustainable Employment program. It's with the Youth Job Center of Evanston to provide not less than 20 disconnected and unemployed young adults who are low to moderate income Evanston residents, ages 18 to 25, with a career pathway plan that leads to education, work, trade certification, employment supportive services, career counseling, etc. Over 24 months, an amount not to exceed $55,200 for fiscal year 2017. Funding for this agreement is budgeted in Parks, Recreation, and Community Services, Youth and Young Adult Engagement Division, which has a fiscal year 2017 budget of $281,965 and a year-to-date balance of $235,455 prior to this agreement. And then costs amount to approximately $2,760 per participant. The City of Evanston shall be financially responsible for the furtherance of the program, and the Youth Job Center of Evanston shall be the employer of record. It's for action. I move approval.
Could you also, so we can keep this on the consent agenda, take it off, present the appointments? The APP one? I think we've...
That's for you to do, I think.
Okay, I mean, we've done it both ways. I'm happy to do it.
Can you remove, I'm going to be objecting, so how do we do that?
Oh, we're going to remove it then. We'll remove the appointments and we'll have a discussion about that. Okay, so do I have a motion to move the consent agenda?
Approval.
Second.
Okay. Can we do a vote, clerk?
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Wilson. Alderman Rue Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Suffredin. Alderman Ravel.
Okay, the consent agenda passes 9-0. All right, Alderman Braithwaite.
Mr. Mayor, member of council, I'd like to move item A7, which is the ordinance 57-0-17, authorizing the city manager to enter a real estate contract for the sale of city-owned property adjacent to the Evanston Public Library, 1718 Chicago Avenue. And I just want to remind members that this is just for introduction. Need a second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing no lights, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Wait. This is money. You have to.
This is money, you're right.
Alderman.
Okay, so can you do the roll vote on
Yes.
this?
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
Alderman Fisk. Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Wilson. Alderman Rue Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Suffredin. Alderman Ravel.
All right, so ordinance A7 passes 7-2. For introduction, passes for introduction 7-2. And that's ordinance 52-0-17, authorizing the city manager to enter into a real estate contract for the sale of city-owned property adjacent to the Evanston Public Library at 1714, 1718 Chicago Avenue. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'd also like to move item A10, which is ordinance 72-0-17, amending the city code section 11-2-11B, immobilization program by amending the amount liable tickets need to be immobilized from 5 to 3.
Is there any discussion? Alderman Braithwaite?
Yeah, I pulled it off for just a couple of reasons. We had a healthy discussion and presentation by staff. Again, my concern is by dropping from 5 to 3, potential harm, and I do see both sides to the argument. So without rehashing it, I just wanted to offer maybe another amendment to reduce it over a period of time, and my recommendation would be to move it to 4 in 2018 and then down to the 3 in 2019, if there would be someone willing to support a second.
A second.
Okay. I'll then move an amendment to ordinance A10 that we move up from 3 to 4 tickets for 2018, and then in 2019 to 3 tickets, so we don't have to come back.
Alderman Wilson?
My inclination is just to either change it or not change it, because I don't want to, if we change it every year, people aren't going to catch that. They're not going to notice. I mean, you should pay your tickets anyway, but, kind of having this, unexpected change, it's not going to be anybody's radar. So that's just an observation. I don't feel strongly about it. Well,
They'll know.
They'll know.
They don't know now.
Alderman Fleming?
I would just say I appreciate the change just because it gives people time to adjust, but I think part of that, them knowing, is on us just to make sure that we are communicating with our constituents. I had a brief kind of conversation with Assistant Manager Storley, and she mentioned the use of a different type of technology, some kind of system that goes on the window versus on your car. I think we talked about this, and I don't know anything about the cost, but hopefully we can look into that, because that's something that our city staff can implement, and so we are not then maybe having the high fee of paying North Shore Towing the $120 or whatever it is to put the boot on. We can have city staff to put this device on. Again, I don't know what the cost of that is, but it would be nice to look that way so that we can potentially save people some money and not pay, or not have them pay North Shore. We can just do it in-house.
Sounds like a great plan.
Indeed. City Manager Bob Quince?
Yes, Mr. Chair, or Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we've already purchased 3, so they're ready to go tomorrow. So it's not a matter of, we could buy more if we need to. I think that the committee discussion, I think staff committed to widely circulate the changes. So I think my concern would be if we're going to do this on a stair-step basis, additional costs, though, I think we were looking at for changing the technology so that people would know if it's their second ticket or third ticket, printing on envelopes. If we're going to do this on an annual basis, I think that adds a level of complexity to this. So we're prepared to do what the council would like, but I think as we look at ways to bridge a revenue gap, this seems like a pretty straightforward way to do that. And with, I think as Alderman Fleming has mentioned, this different technology will save the residents of Evanston some money, so it makes it a little less painful in the process.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. When we discussed this originally at Transportation and Parking, I have to say I was skeptical about dropping the number down from 5 to 3, but then, and I wasn't here during the committee discussion, but then as a result of talking during the committee and seeing the numbers, it made sense to me that instead of waiting for someone to have 5 tickets where potentially they owe $500 and the boot fee, so suddenly the cost that you're facing is $600-700 in order to get your car back, which might be which is your transportation to work. Instead, at the 3 ticket mark, and we do give notice of when you're boot eligible repeatedly, the 3 tickets might be much more a number that still someone can still meet and get their car back, so they can go on with their life. So that made sense to me, and I think that I do think if we change it, we should just change it once and then establish the new policy. When I looked at the information, and most other communities are lower than 5, and I think that the 3 is a good one. It helps people from getting sideways, in terms of ticketing. That's all.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Rainey?
With the windshield thing, we'll still have to tow the vehicle, right? It can't sit there forever.
No, Alderman Rainey, members of the council, we won't. The individual will have the ability to remove it themselves. So
What if they don't? I mean, that's the problem with the boot. People just let it sit there, and then we have to tow it.
in those instances, yes, but I mean, by and large, people come and get the boot off. So they will now be able to do that themselves. The way the device works is they get a
You
code.
showed me. I know. I saw the
Okay.
thing where you put your thing in the thing. But what if they don't? Then we'll have to tow it.
You'd have to tow anyway.
Regardless, yeah. But our experience is that, and the experience of other communities using this device is that people go through the process to take it off themselves.
Then even better, it's going to be much cheaper for them than we should do it 3 tickets. Keep those tickets down. The point is we want to keep what's owed us down to the minimum. So let's keep it at 3 tickets.
Right.
It makes even more sense than with the windshield guard, I think.
Alderman Ravel?
I think my vision of this barracuda or whatever it's called, that's Barnacle, excuse me.
I think I was the one that told you Barracuda.
Okay.
It sounded like a cool.
There we go, Barnacle. Barnacle on people's windshields is going to be a pretty dramatic news story, and so I think that'll give us another opportunity to explain the change in the 3 ticket thing.
Yeah.
And Alderman Ravel, they're about the color of your jacket. Yeah. So they're noticeable.
All right. Seeing no more discussion, we have to, I think, vote on this proposed amendment, which was to drop or starting the boot or the barnacle at 4 tickets in 2018 and then 3 tickets in 2019. That was put on the floor by Alderman Braithwaite. It was seconded. So can we do a quick roll on that?
Alderman Rainey? No. Alderman Fleming?
Yes.
Alderman Fisk? Aye. Alderman Braithwaite?
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen? No. Alderman Wilson? No. Alderman Rue Simmons?
Aye.
Alderman Suffredin?
No.
Alderman Ravel?
Okay, so that amendment fails to pass. And so can we, all in favor of the original proposal here, the resolution, no, where am I? Excuse me.
Ordinance, it's for introduction.
Ordinance, so I need somebody to put a motion forward on the ordinance itself.
Committee chair did.
I'll move for adoption to item A10, ordinance 72-17, as written.
Introduction.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay. 8-1. That A10 passes. All right, and then the last thing on our agenda is the appointments, and that was pulled off and held. Alderman Rue Simmons.
Is it on? Okay.
You should, yeah, I saw.
Yeah, so I'm just generally concerned about the makeup of our committees in general across the board. And as I stated in a referral in committee, I would like us to look at how we are keeping those voices diverse. And with that said, I'm going to be objecting to all but 4 on the citizen police complaint Assessment Committee and both of the recommendations for the Preservation Commission. For example, on the Preservation Commission, I asked for a list of the successful projects over the last 10 years. We have not had any in the west side of the city, in the 2nd or the 5th Ward. I then asked for when was the last time we actually did approve a West End project in the 2nd or the 5th Ward, and I was given a list of what looked like hundreds of properties, and I did not see a fair representation of our very significant historic properties and business districts and neighborhoods in the 5th Ward and in the 2nd Ward. And I would like us to be more thoughtful and intentional about how we are preserving and landmarking our properties, and make sure that we're including historic, socially important properties and districts, and not just architecturally significant properties. And so with that said, I'm going to be objecting until we can have a better makeup and people that are going to speak to the voice of the properties that have not been included, and not just architectural integrity.
Okay, thank you. Is there any more discussion? Okay, seeing none, is there anyone who wants to move the motion on these appointments? Is that?
You moved, right? Did you move the appointments, right?
Yeah, doesn't it call for a vote?
So I'll second.
Doesn't? Oh, it doesn't.
It's not
call for
second.
vote.
Yeah.
Do I need to?
No, I guess he didn't call the question. I was saying, so I was asking the question, I guess, do we need to vote on these appointments because they were pulled off the consent agenda? So I thought I was asking for a motion to move the approval of these appointments. I'm looking for a motion, and no
I will
motion.
move the approval of these appointments.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
So we have two opposed. Okay. So these appointments pass 8-2, or excuse me, 7-2.
Mr. Mayor, one item that I think we did not address on, as far as action is concerned, are the minutes. I would move that we hold the minutes to the next regular council meeting.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right. Let's see. Call of the wards. Alderman Rainey.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council and the public, I have sat here for, I think, it's been the last 4.5 years, listening to at least several people in the community attack activities that have done nothing but enliven the south end of town. The city and members of the council have supported various creative and inventive ways to make things happen for certain people and certain businesses on the south end of town by virtue of the fact that the city purchased property and loaned money to at least 2 businesses. What I'm going to ask our staff for, and I am very, very careful, and I know our city manager knows this, I'm very, very careful in asking for information that takes a lot of time of our staff when there's so many important things for our staff to be doing. But I'm going to ask for this to put an end to the craziness and the stupidity and just the absolute nonsense that goes on here every other week almost for the last almost 5 years. I'm going to ask the city manager to ask his staff to put together a cost-benefit analysis of every single penny spent and every single penny generated by Peckish Pig and Ward 8, the money committed to those 2 businesses and the money generated by those 2 businesses since the day we engaged them. I know that we're working on the theater and we're working on 633 Howard, and we're working on the Chicago and Howard projects right now. But those two businesses at 631 and 623 Howard are the two that are most targeted. And those are the ones that we have really focused on, and those are the ones that are most under attack. And so I'd like a real running tally, cost-benefit analysis.
Okay.
I know it's a lot of work. I'm not in a big rush for it, but I really need that.
Okay. Thank you, Alderman Rainey. Alderman Fleming?
I just want to publicly thank people who do come and stay, one, to the bitter end, but also stay to make your voice heard. I know from being in your shoes, it can be hard to figure out what's going on because we don't respond back. So I just want to publicly thank you for coming, because I know that's a task. I also want to I know that there were a couple families here who had children who had to leave, who wanted to speak, just to give their voice to situations with our police. So I want to encourage them publicly to come back. I think one thing I just want to make sure the public knows, because I get phone calls about this, is that we have to hear what your experience is. Our police are human beings, and so I don't think that everyone is perfect, but also our city council doesn't know what your experience is unless you share it with us. So I know I've talked to some people who don't want to go through the complaint process, but I think that all of us would like to hear what your experience is, because that's the only way that we can work from our end to do our job to make sure you feel like you are treated fairly in our community. So I want to implore you to do that. And then the last thing, particularly for the Ninth Ward residents, I would like to implore you all to participate on Wednesday night if you can with the budget process. I know we've talked about this in our ward meetings, and I always tell you the budget tells you where our priorities and our values are. So if you can't come to City Hall, I look on the website and figure out the Twitter and the Facebook and whatever else you can do, because that's going to be an important place for you to get your questions across, as well as obviously sending them to me.
Thank you, Alderman Fleming. Alderman Fisk?
No report.
Alderman Braithwaite?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I'd like to share with members of the Second Ward that we will not have a ward meeting this Thursday, September 14th. And then I'd also like to make a referral to the planning development, and that's I've been approached by District 65. They would like to create a alternative school in the ward, and to do so we would have to put a special use in I-2 zoning district that was originally rejected by our zoning administrator. So I want to recommend a referral to the Planning Development Committee to outline the further options for the district. This could be taken up by the Plan Commission. That can be further taken up by the Plan Commission or ZBA.
But first to P&D.
First to P&D for discussion. Did I say 202? Okay, pardon me. That's 202.
Okay, terrific. Thank you, Alderman Braithwaite. Alderman Nguyen? No report. Alderman Wilson? No report. Alderman Ruth Simmons?
I'd like to invite everyone to our ward meeting on the 21st at 7 p.m. at Gibbs Morrison, and also encourage residents in all wards, particularly in the 5th Ward, to apply to be on the committees. Please apply so that we have an opportunity to approve a better selection of residents that represents our ward better. We're in a unique city where we do not have to have committees made up of academics that are maybe reviewing a case study. We have residents right here in town that have been directly affected by the police, our policing matters, and it would be nice to have a resident like that on our committee versus those that have not had any direct impact. Thank you.
Alderman Savernan?
I'd like to congratulate 6th Ward resident Peter Kaplan on his completion of his term as AYSO Commissioner. It's a thankless job, and he did a good job, and that's it.
Alderman Ravel?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to mention that on Thursday this week, September 14th, we're going to be having yet another community meeting about the Central Street Bridge reconstruction project. This is going to focus in particular on the impact of the reconstruction on the Canal Shores Golf Course. And so the meeting is going to be held at the American Legion building from 7 to 9 p.m. on this Thursday, and encourage anyone who's interested in particular in the Canal Shores aspect of the bridge project to come to that meeting.
Great, thank you. All right, Alderman Wilson, would you lead us into executive session?
Thank you. Pursuant to 5 Illinois compiled statutes, ILCS 120/2A, I move that the City Council convene into executive session to discuss agenda items regarding personnel, collective bargaining, litigation, and minutes. These agenda items are permitted subjects to be considered in executive session and are enumerated exceptions under the Open Meetings Act. The exceptions are 5 ILCS 120/2A, C1, C2, C11, and C21.
Do I have a motion to recess into executive session?
So moved.
Second? All right.
All in favor?
All in favor? Anyone opposed? Want to stay here longer? All right. Thank you for coming out.